But I think getting into our next segment here, it's something that we were talking about last week in our meeting for this episode, and I think we're all pretty excited about it. It was kind of a big topic of discussion in our meeting last week, so we are going to do a draft for our favorite high school fields to go to or watch a game at, and it's kind of going to be based on like our answers are going to be based on kind of like our personal, like if it's, I like watching a game there, I like scouting a game there, but we'll kind of explain that as we roll out our answers. But basically what we'll do, it's going to be a snake draft. We're going to have each get 4 picks, and then we'll talk through some honorable mentions. The one thing that we were going to do is we had to figure out the order on the call. So I mean, unless you guys have another way to do it, I have a wheel pulled up on my screen. So I can just put our names in and decide the wheel for number 1, 2, 3, and 4. But Pete wants him and Drew to go last, just since they've been doing it the longest.
Well,
so
I guess, mean, I don't. It doesn't have.
How do you want to do it?
It doesn't have to be that way. I was just trying to be nice to you guys.
All right.
I'm gonna work hard no matter what to not steal venues from you guys. Having the luxury of having done this for many years, I've been able to see a lot of different venues around the state, and I think the one thing we all realize too is like we haven't seen all the venues. There's probably a lot of cool fields out there that we just haven't been to, but these are all the ones that we have been to that we know that for whatever reason we love them. Whether it's the vibe, whether it's like the backdrop you get at UIC on a beautiful, summer day there when we're watching a summer tournament. Or, hey, this field is amazing to scout because right behind home, nobody else is allowed back there. We can go left, right, get all the different sides for the hitters, the pitchers, all that stuff. And like you said, we'll get into it more and I'll break down why I like certain venues. But not just like, hey, this is the most pure field in the state.
Yeah. Drew, I just want to clarify, too, because we talked about this. We're going no college fields, right?
Well, that's the hard thing is because, you mentioned normally U-High plays at Illinois State.
Yeah.
There are definitely other venues like you're talking about. So I would say personally, like, let's try to stick with non-college venues, and maybe we can throw some out at the end. But, yeah, I think that's a good clarification there, Gavin.
All right, so we're just sticking to high school fields, no pro like minor league fields, nothing like that. Just high school fields. So I've got the wheel set up here. What do we want to do? Do we want to start at the 4th pick down or start at number 1 pick? And then
I think whoever wins the wheel gets the number 1 pick.
All right, let's see. What do we got here? Can you guys hear that? The spinning?
No,
what do you know? I get number 1 pick. All right.
Rigged.
So I'm going to be number 1 here. I'll take my name off. And then let's see who number 2 is. 2 is Tyler. All right, so Pete, it's working out how you said it should.
That's it. Ball don't lie. That's fair.
All right, and then 3 and 4. Pete is 3, and Drew, you are going to be 4.
That's like pretty much. That's pretty much perfect.
So do I need to prepare for 2 picks right now? We're snaking
so you're going to go back to back.
Oh boy. Okay, and this will be my number 1 seed and my number 2 seed.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay.
Or you can try and do it to where like you pick something that you try and save a good pick that no one's going to pick. Also,
I've got a couple of those where there's no way you guys will pick them.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how this goes.
All right. Well, I think I've been talking about this since we started talking. The number 1 pick is Edwardsville for me. It's going to be down there in Southern Illinois. They have like the most electric atmosphere. And I think it's a good place to scout a game too. But just for me, like this one it's just an awesome environment. Really nice field, really nice setup. So Edwardsville, number 1.
Well, and just pulling into Edwardsville, you get a immediate just vibe of like this is a brand new, beautiful complex. They have a swimming center right there by the parking lot. Their JV turf field is right there next to the parking lot. And then you go, I guess it would be the west side of the parking lot is the varsity field. And what they've done behind home plate with like the brick and all of the I think they have like Tom Pyle and all the state titles and what they've done in the outfield wall. That's a pretty big
And-
time pick there, Gavin. 1-1. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, Drew, I will never forget. I'm not gonna lie. I've actually not watched or scouted a game at Edwardsville, but during the Kickoff Classic last year, you were down there watching Brother Rice and Edwardsville. So I walked down and watched the last couple innings, and that was it was at night too, so it was just super cool environment. Ton of fans there. They were all super excited about it. Super close game too. Two really good teams in the state, so it was awesome. It was an awesome electric matchup to watch. So I'm sure that all of their games are like that for the most part, especially when they're playing some of those rivalry schools down there in Southern Illinois. So,
well, the fan, and the amount of spectators, I think, plays into who we're choosing for venues. It's you couldn't be more spot on. Like Edwardsville draws a great crowd, and they know baseball. They're baseball fans down there, like they get it. So it's always fun to sit in the stands there.
All right, Tyler, who do you got with number 2 here?
Well, I'm just going to throw the disclaimer out there for anybody listening that I've only been covering high school stuff for one spring, so my palette's probably going to be a little smaller than these guys on this call, but my first selection is going to be Cary Wood Field over there on the north side of Chicago. DePaul College Prep and Lane Tech share it. I think there's a few other schools that share it, but for me, from a scouting perspective, it's like perfect. It's like a whole concrete concourse behind home, and you can easily move from both sides of the batter's box and get a ton of video, and it's just really, it makes our lives really easy as scouts. So, and then you also got a nice view of the Chicago skyline in the background. So, for me, Cary Wood, number 1.
All right, Pete, what do you got here?
I got a lot of options here, but I think I'm going to go with Lockport. I just love – it's like the northern version of Edwardsville, like the whole setup they have and like the stadium feel. It almost feels like like a summer league field where you walk in, they got like concessions, they got like different parts you can sit. It's just really easy to like scout to, in my opinion. Like behind the plate, they got the big bleachers with the backs on the seats. You can just sit there and gun, and then you can hop down and go down the line. But I think the baseball in Lockport is really big, just like Edwardsville. Like they draw a lot of fans, especially come playoff time. It's just always one of my favorites. I get excited every time I hear I'm going out there.
All right, Drew, you got back-to-back picks here at 4 and 5. What do you got?
Well, and I was just dissecting my list as you guys were picking, because I didn't really chime in when Tyler picked Cary Wood and then Hammett picked Lockport there. And Lockport's a place I've gone to watch a number of games, and I do love that place. You kind of wander down the right field line if you want to get some views of it, like just a different look at the game. I always like getting a view of the infielders in between innings and stuff like that. Sometimes you can get stuck behind home, and this is a field I think that I'm going to go 1-1 with, where you can get stuck behind home. But when you talk about being able to scout, get right up against, a net for a pitcher, not have, a whole bunch of fans, right next to you. You can wander left and right a little bit to get side of hitters. And then I'm always seeing an awesome matchup there. The fans are always rowdy. I got to go St. Lawrence. They just, they got turf on the infield now. It's part of the Chicago Catholic League Blue. And there's a lot of passion, I would say, that gets going during those games. I don't know if I've ever been there for a matchup that wasn't a big time matchup. But they block off right behind home for just press, or scouts. And we are very lucky that they do that. I've seen a number of amazing matchups there too, which I think plays into it. I remember the Nazareth-Lamont game in a regional, and that was, I believe it led to Nazareth's first state title there a couple years ago when they ended up winning 2 straight. But and then also just a number of good St. Lawrence. I remember watching Jimmy Burnett throw there, who's had a great career, post high school. So yeah, St. Lawrence 1-1. It's a really special place.
And Drew, that's where Tyler and I saw our first game as prep baseball interns back in 2022.
Good call.
You and Steve Nielsen took us there, and we're doing our what did we call that? Our scouting
Scout school.
Scout school, yeah, scout school.
And I don't know who the teams were for sure. I just remember one of them being Marist.
It was
Because I
St.
remember
Lawrence and
Marist.
Marist.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
St. Lawrence and Marist.
And Luke Stolga hit 2 bombs that game.
Yeah.
There you
And I remember Joe Olson was also pitching. He was just a freshman at the time. And, like,
Yep.
I remember we had to write, like, a scouting report on him. That was, like, our homework after the game. And then, like, a week later, he committed to Louisville. So I'll never forget that for sure.
That's pretty. The one thing I remember about that game is watching pregame infield, and somebody who wasn't even doing pregame infield. He was just flipping the balls to Coach Sefcik for the fun. It was Aiden Flynn, walking around there as a freshman with an unbelievable looking frame. You couldn't miss him on the field. I remember Steve being like, "Who is that guy?" And you look at kind of where Aiden Flynn is now. Really cool to see. But yeah, St. Lawrence #1. I gotta look here. I gotta make sure I like my #2. I think, man. So I haven't been there often. I want to say I've only been there twice. But very memorable when I went there, and my #2 is gonna be Rochester. I don't know if you guys have been there. I don't know why I like it so much, but there's something about it. Maybe the fact that the first time I went there was to watch Tyler Fitzgerald. And I saw him go yard in his first at bat. I'll never forget the visual, kind of hugged it down the line. It was a no-doubter. The only question was if it was going to be fair or foul. And then in that same game, watching Cam Edmondson, a little lefty, just competitor, really, really good breaking ball. I don't know what grad year he would have been, maybe 2018, 2019. He ended up going to Indiana State, had a couple good years at Indiana State, might still be there. But Rochester, the one thing that stood out to me is, well, first off, they were watering their infield dirt before the game, which any high school field that has a legitimate watering setup, not like a hose they're running out that barely gets, around the mound or the plate. Like, I'm talking an industrial hose that you would see at a big league park. They were using that on the infield, and all that does is bring me back to my days of coaching, and one of my favorite things to do is watering and dragging the infield. You want to talk about therapeutic. Man, after a practice, being able to drag that infield and water it and get it looking pure, and then the sprinklers go on. So, that's part of this high school venue here is definitely nostalgia for me. So that was one. But behind home plate at Rochester, they have like a really unique setup to where you can sit up in some bleachers and get a view. But if you want to, you can. In the middle, there's like a cutout area where you can stand, and you're not really blocking anybody that would be behind you on the bleachers. And I love that field. I remember going down the left field line, the third base line, and watching guys hitting the cage. Man, they've had some really good players come through Rochester as well. So sorry for the long-winded 1 and 2 there, but just brings back a ton of great memories.
All right, Pete, what do you got here for your second pick?
I'm going to try and grab this while I can. I don't know who else has been there, but I'm going to go with Fallon for #2. I haven't been there in a little while. I think I've only actually been there once, but it was really memorable for me. It's like just baseball's huge down in Edwardsville, that whole area. So, I mean, they have a ton of pride in their field and just their program in general. So, really good fans. A lot of people go and watch, and it's pretty rowdy. And then I just love the whole, the setup of where it's, covered. That's just, you don't really see that very often. So when you do, it stands out for sure. But I thought it was really easy to, maneuver around there. I liked just kind of sitting up at the top of the bleachers and gunning, and then I could move around freely. But, yeah, I think the covered stadium is pretty big time. And you don't really see it very often. So I think that you got to call it out when you see it.
No, that's a good pick there, Pete. They were actually on my list, so I was actually hoping I'd grab them on the end around there. So, good pick by you. I'm gonna hop in. My next pick is going to be Nazareth Academy. First off, the field is really nice. They got an all-turf setup there. But what's really big time now is they have a section behind home plate completely blocked off for scouts now. So how they have it is they actually have some chairs back there for scouts, Obviously, Naz, they have some pro scouts there from time to time at their games, but for us, it's huge because, again, I can move freely behind home, so first base side to the third base side. And they also, maybe get some extra credit points for me because they're right down the road from me. So, no, it's a big time place to go watch a game, and I was actually lucky enough to see a couple really close games there last spring. So, Naz is my next pick.
All right, my second pick here. I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of these Central Illinois schools that maybe you guys haven't been to or been to as much. These next few are tough for me. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I have some pretty good options to choose from, but number 2, I'm gonna go Morton.
That was on my list. That was high up on my list, Gavin.
Yeah. It's just an awesome, really nice field, and kind of like Drew, you were talking about with how they water. Was it Rochester? You were saying they watered their field, and they have like a really nice, like the industrial sized hose or whatever. That's what they've got over there at Morton. They water it before every game. They drag it. It's super nice field. Behind home plate, they have like a brick backstop, and then they've got a like a press box, and they've got some like bleacher type seats, and it's just always a really good atmosphere. The fans there are super passionate. I sit where I sit every time I go to their games is right in front of this older couple that goes to every single Morton game, and they're always talking about, they know this kid and his stats and how well he's doing. And I don't know if they're grandparents or what, but they always sit in the same spot, and that's honestly kind of how it usually is. A lot of these people at Morton, they're always sitting in the same spots behind home plate there. So, no, it's a super fun environment, and the music's always good, and you always know you're in for a good game when you're at Morton.
I was gonna say too, at Morton, I'm pretty sure every time I've been there, they have the grill going.
Yes.
Like it smells so good. They've got the
Yes.
grill going. What I like too there is like you can walk down either line and get a good view of the game. The left field line kind of has like almost a seating area, a standing area. Reminds me a little bit like Naz. I love that little piece that they have at Naz where you can go down the left field line. I love watching pregame infield from the little bleachers, like kind of in shallow by the bullpen. Really is where it's at. So love
and
that. Gav,
they've got sunken dugouts too, which are pretty big time for the players and stuff. And yeah, it's just a really cool atmosphere. It's in like a complex with other baseball fields too. So on like those Saturday double headers, they'll have younger kids playing, and then they'll head over to the Morton game because all the Morton baseball program is kind of like the celebrities of all those kids are like celebrities in that town. So it's a really cool atmosphere. Right outside of Peoria. It's a smaller town, but not like that small. I don't know. It's just a cool baseball town too. So,
one other note I had on that is they have like the natural hitter's eye because it's all trees back there,
Yep.
which is really cool. I thought so. Just one last little nugget on that park.
It's an awesome spot. So flipping down to my third pick now. Again, this is a very, very tough decision for me, but I think what's going to seal the deal with this school is I saw them play Dunlap in a night game, and it was super awesome, super chippy back and forth, really tight knit game, and there's a ton of people. It was packed, and that is Washington High School. They've got like behind home plate, they've got this hill. You kind of look down on the field, and then you can easily walk around the field and get good videos or whatever we're doing. But just the atmosphere. That Mid-Illini Conference loves baseball. They're smaller towns that are just very passionate about their sports. So I think Washington, Morton, those are two really good ones. And it was hard to choose between who should be 2 and 3, but just having both of those on my list, I feel pretty good, to be honest with you. So I'll go Washington at 3. But Def, you're up next.
Yeah, my next pick, I'm gonna take McHenry. They have a brand new turf field. I saw them play Burlington Central last year up at their place. Got to see Brandon Shannon pitch and Caden Wisniewski, so that was really cool to see that. But they have a nice, area behind home plate where you can move freely and scout. But it's also just a nice area. I liked the drive when I went up there. It's a little bit longer of a drive for me, but I like it. So McHenry's going to be my third pick.
All right, I'm going to go what is this? My third pick? Yeah, third
Yeah,
pick.
I'm just prepping here. Do I need to have two ready again, correct? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Joliet Catholic. I got some connections there with like I played summer ball there for like 2 weeks one summer with the Joliet Dirtbags, and so I know the private parking. All right, so I can park like secretly and no one will bother me. That's a little thing I learned from playing there.
Well, it's not a secret now.
Well, you don't know where it's at. I just told you there's private parking. You don't know where. And so I get fired up just because of that, and I know Coach Voss pretty well, so that's it's always good to see him. But I'm a big fan of when I can just set down like my gun and my book and like not have to worry about like holding it. And so the bleachers they got, you can stand back there and just place everything down and just watch, and then grab it and go when you need to. And then I really, really like the little porch they have in left field. I've gotten some cool video from there, like a final out video last year I thought was pretty cool from there. And then in left field, they got another like porch. I'm just a big porch guy. I love porches at baseball fields. They earn points for me. Yeah, and I mean it's just one of the nicer all natural fields in the state as well. And I just got a soft spot for Joliet. I lived there for a couple of years in college, so that's my number three.
Plenty of good players that have come out of Joliet Catholic to go see. One that I went and saw there, TJ Schlageter, now at Louisville, but got to see him and Trey Swiderski over there a couple years ago. I think right now I'm just kind of trying to buy time until I really know what picks I want to solidify here. I think for me, my next pick has got to be Lamont. Um, it's another park that like kind of like Morton, Gavin. It doesn't sit on campus. It's I want to say it's like the Bell Park or the Bell Sports Complex. Because there is some other like the softball fields over there, but it is an absolutely beautiful park. As far as the playing surface is concerned, they do a great job. I think they have their own groundskeeper out there that works solely on those fields. I always try to make it a point when I go to see Lamont to try to catch a beautiful day, because Coach Storacco, first off, Coach Storacco does a great job. Number of, made it to state a number of times, couple state titles. But he runs it like a college program. So if I do go out there, like especially a Saturday, catching a Saturday morning game there, to where you get out there early, you see all his guys take BP. They've got the music going. It's reminiscent of like back when I played in college, and you get that music going for BP. That's one of the biggest things I miss about playing college baseball. So I love going out there early. Watching guys get BP, and then how they do their whole pregame warm up. And they always have guys. There's always guys to watch. I love behind home. They have an area, where it's like a mini bleacher. If you need to get right up against the net to get quality video, you can. And then they have little circle tables down each line to where you can navigate, get video out. You could even go all the way down the third base line if you want to and get a good view. But I love where it sits. I love the whole complex. It is a beautiful, beautiful baseball field for a high school park. So Lamont would be my next choice there. And then if I'm going to solidify my final choice, man, I've got a lot of good ones, and I know we want to maybe touch on some that, at the end here that just missed the cut. But I am going to go Civic Memorial as my final pick. And, it's also not on campus. It's at the Bethalto Sports Complex. And full disclosure, that's where it was when I went and watched them back my first spring doing this. So it would have been like 2016. I think they still play there. If you don't, Civic Memorial, feel free to shout us out, let us know. But I loved this park. I went down to make a little Southern Illinois trip, watch a couple arms. I think I went over to Triad the day after. But what I love so much about it is I was driving through country roads, and then all of a sudden you just see this park kind of sitting up on a mini hill. And I remember parking and kind of walking. Maybe I didn't know where I was going. Maybe there's a closer spot to park. I didn't have the Hammett inside info there. But I remember walking kind of a long way up to the park and having just a beautiful walk up there, old school setup, kind of off on its own, and a really cool bleacher setup behind home. And that was, for me, my first introduction to just how cool these Southern Illinois fields are. I mean, I think we have a lot of them on our list, and then you start talking about Central Illinois with Rochester and Washington and Morton. But man, they really care about baseball. And there's all kinds of like cool, unique parks down there, like Blazer Field, like you mentioned, Hammett at O'Fallon it's super unique. And like the way they have their kind of their dugout, which also goes up to the press box at O'Fallon. But yeah, Civic Memorial for the uniqueness of it. And one of my first parks that I went to and was kind of like, whoa, this is really, really cool. So that's my final pick.
All right, my final pick is actually my 1-1, but I knew no one would pick it. So I'm going with Wheaton Academy as my number one. There's just some nostalgia there. Like, I grew up, I played tournaments there, and anyone that has not been there, part of their fence in left field is a church. So, like, literally, the church is in fair territory, so balls just could, like, bang off the church, which I just think is kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of wild. But it's a really nice setup. The field, like, the surface itself is really good. The deal breaker for me was just how close you are to the action. I love when you can like get right up on them. Like for pitching video, I've seen Owen Murphy there before. You could probably dig up the old videos there, but you could you just get right up in there and it's a really great view, and then you can go down the line. And for hitting, it's just a really good view like anywhere you go. Like there's no bad view for video. But yeah, I just love Wheaton Academy. I've only been there once, but I definitely want to go back.
I've been there once too, Hammond, and you're spot on.
Yeah.
That place is really, really cool. And if I was a right-handed hitter, I would absolutely love hitting there. If I had any kind of juice, because it is a short porch.
Watch out for the church, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, they shouldn't have put it there, right? Well, is that it? Is that the final pick there, Gavin?
No, we got Def and me still.
Okay, sorry. I got excited
you're
to
good.
list off all these that I had on my list.
All right, for my final pick, I'm going with Sycamore. What I loved about Sycamore was just the overall setup of this field. They play at this community park in the area, but I love the field. Part of it like reminded me of the high school field I played at back in Ohio growing up.
Northmont, right? Let's shout it out.
Yeah,
All right.
Go Bolts, baby. So the thing with Sycamore, like also the center field wall is like kind of wooden, and it almost gives you like that old timey baseball park feel. And then on top of that, the setup behind home plate is like fenced in. It's almost like a cage where, and they have like a little bit of like a laid out slab of turf back there too for you. So they let me, hang out back there and do my thing. So just honestly love the overall landscape of that park. So Sycamore's my final pick there.
All right. The final pick of the draft here. So this was tough for me. I actually had another school picked. And then as we were talking, I was like, oh, this might be the spot. St. Joe Ogden. They got a new park down there. And I think it's actually in St. Joseph's, not Ogden.
Easy to find too, right?
Yeah, I was like, so last year I went to their game and they were playing Monticello, and I drove around for like probably 30 minutes trying to find this field because they got a new field, and I was using Apple Maps, and it's not on Apple Maps, but it's on Google Maps, this new field. So I was having a tough time finding it, but it is right outside of town, down the road from their high school. Super nice field. It's turf. They have kind of like him that you were talking about, the covering over the bleachers. They have a big bleacher section, and it was awesome. The atmosphere is good, similar to a lot of these Central Illinois, Southern Illinois schools, and I mean some of the schools you guys were talking about too. Like they just love baseball down here, so it's like a very sports-centric school. So a lot of the people are super involved in the community. But I'm gonna hold off. I guess I'm gonna hold off before I say anything else. But that's got to be number 4 for me. So, do you guys want to talk through some of our honorable mentions, though?
I would love to because there's so many. It was so hard to choose, and I love some of these parks that got left off the list. I may just rattle them off here if you don't mind. I think Evanston deserves a huge shout out. I watched a playoff game there. New Trier versus Glenbrook North, and it is a really cool atmosphere. The bleacher setup's solid, but like, I love the fence. They've kind of got like a mini wall and left. I think you mentioned it, Defaball, like that old school wood like fence. It's really, but it's really nice. It's a beautiful park. That's one right off the bat. And then for me, Danville Stadium, one of the oldest venues in the country. That's like still standing. I think they shot the movie The Babe there, but beautiful, beautiful park. It is super old school. Everything about it is old school. The nostalgia there is so cool though, and I know Danville Area Community College plays their home games there. Danville High School plays there. The Danville Dans in the gosh, what is it called now? But it used to be the CICL.
I think it's the Prospect League now.
Yeah, so the Prospect League plays there, but I've spent a lot of time at that park. I love that park. Land Fear Park along the same lines in Springfield. I don't know if a high school team plays there. I don't know if Springfield High plays there, Gav, but it's another beautiful park, old school park. Really, really cool. Just setting, kind of right in the middle of like downtown Springfield too. It seems like, but those are just a couple. Let me check my list here as I rattle them off. Lake Park is an awesome, facility. They just got turf on the infield there as well. And then I think the one I really wanted to mention was I went down and watched Effingham versus St. Anthony a few years ago, and I watched Zach Lee on the mound for Effingham. Mason Hull was playing shortstop for Effingham. He went on to play at Missouri State, but the reason it wasn't like 1-1 for me or anything was I honestly wasn't even sure what it was called. I had to Google it. I think it's like a Park District field that they play this game at, when it's the crosstown rivals. And I felt like the whole town came out. It was a night game. Had a really cool behind home plate. Like you almost sat like head high, was like at field level. It was really unique and just one of the coolest atmospheres I've ever been to for high school baseball. So yeah, I'm sure you guys have some others to rattle off here as well.
Yeah, so sorry, Pete.
No, go ahead.
The predicament that I was in there with number 4 was Monticello and St. Joe Ogden, because Monticello has also got a really cool setup where like right behind home there's like a little area where like the scouts can kind of stand, I guess, and it's like almost a pathway, and then above that is like a bleacher section. And it's really nice to get around there too and take videos, but they have a turf field now too, and their whole athletic complex is really nice. They have a nice turf football field, which is really cool. So they have a cool field as well, but I felt like St. Joe Ogden probably took it there. But then Central Catholic too, Bloomington Central Catholic right down the road. They have a super cool park. It's actually McGraw Park is where it's at, but it's like a nice little neighborhood. And then in the outfield they have like a water fountain that has like lights in it sometimes. If it's night, it'll light up, so that's pretty cool. Geneseo is another really nice field up there in the Quad City area. All turf. They have like in center field, way beyond center field, there's like this super big house that is like in the background of it, which is kind of cool. Champaign Central has a turf field. It's really nice. Mattoon, I just went there last spring, and they have a really nice turf field as well. Glenwood's got one of those cool older fields with like the covering like you guys were talking about. But yeah, there's a ton. But yeah, I'll let you guys kind of get in there. But those were some of my schools that I was back and forth with.
One that definitely needs to be mentioned, Revis. Drew, have you been there?
I actually have not, and I've seen a bunch of videos, and then I know, the videos that you put out from last year, that place looks so nice.
Yeah, it's legit. They got like the wooden fence like you were talking about, but like their bullpens are in right and left field, and the fence kind of like sinks down, and you can like see into them. So I think that's like really unique and cool. But no, they got like a little stadium behind the plate. It was packed. It was a playoff game, so I couldn't really maneuver too well, but the whole setup was awesome. And then Oswego, I got to throw them in there. Won a sectional there, so I got some history just like playing wise. But ton of seating. I don't know why there's so much. It's like a college almost. But like a ton of room to walk around, like down the lines behind the plate. Saw Noah Schultz and Ashton Izzy pitch there, with like literally 60 to 70 MLB scouts.
I remember that being kind of
Yeah,
tough
yeah,
to
that was
scout
tough.
that day.
But that was
Yeah.
also like the coolest thing I've ever like seen in my life. So yeah, Oswego definitely needs to be on there.
All right, I'll rip these off real quick. So my honorable mentions are Huntley, Mundelein, St. Viator, and Lincoln Way Central. With Lincoln Way Central, it was probably the coolest atmosphere I saw all spring last year. Saw them play their crosstown rival, Lincoln Way West, and Lincoln Way Central student section was absolutely crazy, in the best way too. Like I thought they went about everything the right way. But that was really cool. St. Viator is a really nice setup of a field. We've talked about that brick backstop already, but they have that, and it's also just a nice park. Really like the field setup there. And then Mundelein and Huntley for me were just great places to go scout a game. You can move freely behind home, first to third, do whatever. And then with Huntley, like the pregame music there was awesome. And also, like, just seeing their pregame routine, like, Coach Jakubowski's bouncing all over the field. He's throwing BP, fungos, whatever, and he's got a ton of energy, and it, like, had me pumped up just to scout their game. So, those are my honorable mentions there for the ballpark draft.
All right, couple more here, Gavin, before we call it quits. But I think Triad deserves a shout out. I'm not sure if I missed anybody saying that, but getting that turf infield now, and that's another spot where you can kind of get right up behind home plate and get a good view if you need to. Rushville Industry it's a wild shot out there, but I remember going scouting Briar Stinson a while back. I think he's down at Drury now playing. But he was a really, really talented right-handed bat. Went out to Rushville Industry. Didn't know where I was going. Field is kind of parked right behind, right next to the school. Like you're basically parking lot watching the game. Naperville Central, I think, is a cool one to just scout a game. Went and saw a bunch of Colin Barzy at bats and Pombo as well. Waukegan, that's another random one. Went to watch an arm at Waukegan, but old school, like big bleachers behind home. Now, it was 20 degrees when I watched that game, so that's probably why it wasn't, didn't make the top four. York is another solid spot. Downers Grove North I really like, just from all the times we went and saw, George Wolkow and Jude Warwick and Janicki and all those guys. But another place where you can kind of get right up next to the fence, move around. There's some freedom there at that field. And then Libertyville, I remember watching Riley Gowans throw the ball. Steven Sanchez at Mundelein, I want to say they were facing each other. But Libertyville I thought was a cool park. And then St. Charles North, for one of the main reasons, like I kind of love Lamont. Coach Genke over there treats it like a college program. They do a whole bunch of stuff pregame. I like to go see them on a Saturday where you can get out there 2 hours before, watch guys hitting in the cage or pregame on the field. And then they always play a good brand of baseball. So just respect Coach Genke and St. Charles North and the program he's had, but just another really cool venue with fans that get it, fans that are locked in, and I typically see them, play a crosstown rival in St. Charles East, which helps that atmosphere.
All right, so that is our ranking, our favorite baseball field, our high school field draft there. We all got through our top four, and then we also had our honorable mention. So I'm going to try and find a good Canva graphic that we've got going right now to potentially throw that one out on socials and see if we got any opinions on who had the best picks there.
Well, I would
be
love to
fun.
hear who we missed. Like, what are some fields out there we need to get to? I'm sure that if anybody's listening here, like, throw out some of your favorites. We would love to hear. I mean, a lot of mine were, kind of personal preference, but also I thought they were sweet fields. And sorry to cut you off there, Gavin, but
no, you're good.
Let's get some public to let us know what we're missing.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I would love to see some more fields, or if people have pictures of them or something, send them in the comments or something like that. But no, that'd be awesome.